Hello again. We now come to the second lecture of Module 3. I'm entitling this Instinct. Instinct is defined as behavior that is mediated by reactions below the conscious level. Thus, in its dry, inimitable way, that is a medical definition of instinct, and it just drones on. But instinct is more than that. I think instinct is much more of a feeling and a primeval sense we used to have that has since been atrophied, and it's not a part of our lives anymore as much as it used to be. Anyway, just to give an example of instinct. In 1909, one of the biggest mysteries of the sea took place. The 9,000-ton luxury ocean liner SS Waratah set sail from Australia to Durban, South Africa, before setting sail to Cape Town. So she sailed from Australia to Durban, and then from Durban she sailed down the coast towards Cape Town. Now on board was a passenger by the name of Cloud Sawyer, an engineer by trade, who was due to sail from Durban all the way down to the Cape. However, during the voyage, he was plagued by frightening and disturbing dreams. In one, he saw the giant ship in a howling storm. In another, a huge wave then swamped the ship, and she sank almost immediately. In another dream, he saw an armoured knight rise above the stormy sea holding a blood-stained rag and mouthing the words Waratah. So disturbed was he by these frightening dreams that he disembarked from the ship in Durban and tried to warn the embarking passengers, much to their consternation. She sailed later that night for Cape Town and disappeared, never to be seen again. And conjecture still surrounds her disappearance, and at the time thousands of miles of bleak open water was searched, but no trace of wreckage was ever found. Now Mr. Sawyer to me is a perfect example of sixth sense and instinct. Sixth sense, the spiritual awareness system foreseeing an impending event or situation. Instinct, the natural survival mechanism that unconsciously determines our reactions to ensure survival. I mean, both of these definitions are mine. Now in England, as autumn slowly hints at the winter to come, squirrels can be seen frantically gathering nuts and storing them in larders, preparing for the hard months of winter ahead. Bears in Alaska eat more fruit, more and more preparing for the dormant state of hibernation. All over this planet the natural world gears up and prepares for the season to come. There's no weatherman showing them synoptic charts about cold fronts and earth tilting. No dire warnings about climate change, floods or blizzards. They are programmed that as the day gets shorter, the nights longer, and other clues, they unconsciously start to alter their behavior. This is instinct, not greed. When we used to live in caves, we did exactly the same thing. We started to hoard food for the harsh conditions ahead. We did not share food, tools, firewood, etc., as that would have lessened our chances of survival. It was greed for survival's sake. Nowadays, all that is gone. Nowadays, everything's gone, but the instinct still remains. Unfortunately, that instinct, bloated and withering to nothing, like our sixth sense, gets inflated and runs away, getting bloated and ultimately inhibiting the natural expression of the person involved. Take, for example, some multi-billionaires with more money than you could ever hope to spend, and yet they work to accrue more and more. They have nothing left to spend it on, but as the zeros in the account get longer, the drive to add another zero gets stronger. How much do you need? It's disturbing to see someone who has everything, who could do so much good for mankind, yet refuses to retire, not because of the love of work or the fear of boredom, but because they are fixated, obsessed with adding more to a bank account that already stretches its own viability. Now, don't get me wrong, money is good, striving to be rich is good, and so is the instinct that drives you. It is when that instinct has a runaway effect that perception is lost and the prison bars become dollar shaped. Another instinct is revenge. Once again, when we were in caves and a trip to the butchers meant taking on old Tyrannosaurus Rex, we were very protective over our family and tribe. The tribe was our very survival, as it was teamwork that ensured success. If we were attacked by another tribe and managed to beat them off it was imperative to then not let sleeping dogs lie, but to track them down and, if possible, annihilate them. This was important not only for the competition for food, but also for your clan safety and the bonding that resulted amongst the tribe members with dancing and feasting afterwards. This is survival revenge. Nowadays, when you take on the Cold War, where the one tribe will risk being annihilated just so we can annihilate the other tribe, you realize just how inflated and warped the revenge instinct is. The parades in Russia, where they show off their nuclear warheads like some pathetic phallic symbol, whilst telling their population about the horrors of a retaliatory strike to come, is not only revenge gone totally haywire, but in a lonely universe it is messed up beyond compare. We could annihilate every living thing on this planet with the exception of cockroaches and Keith Richards, change this living dynamic world into a nuclear wasteland just to show our own perceived and totally warped sense of revenge, even if it meant certain suicide. I mean, the budget for the arms race is billions and billions of dollars. Now, what species of animal or organism in the universe would use all that money just to build machinery to kill themselves and their species? Like the biological warfare. I mean, what kind of mind would breed a virus in a lab that is so immensely powerful, airborne, that would wipe out a civilization and yet go home at night and feed his children? It doesn't make sense to me at all. Another instinct is loyalty. Very important when we were hunting animals in small bands, so teamwork could be relied on. Very good when attacked, so we could depend on our members to stick with us and not defect or run away. Nowadays, it is reflected in business and family, in our country with the national anthem and armed forces, in our sports where you follow a certain team or individual, in our culture with our languages, our customs and rituals, etc. Things that set us apart and makes us what and who we are. Unfortunately, it has caused and continued to cause immeasurable bloodshed and misery, with the worst offender being religion. With this often inflexible and intolerant attitude is a big cause of this. The actual crusades, for example, the missionary zeal in Africa, and the hellness and wretchedness of Islamic State are examples of twisted loyalty. Girls and women not being allowed to drive a car, to be whipped or stoned for transgressions, to be forced to hide their features while their husbands go swimming in shorts, is just an example of loyalty instinct being twisted so much as to be virtually unrecognizable. Also, political parties often try and dig the dirt with sleazy underhand tactics against their opposition. These are all examples of prehistoric instincts that will always be a part of us. Instead of being finely tuned and working closely with our sixth sense, they have become separate, physical, warped, and ultimately destructive. However, instincts, if they are recognized and nurtured, can enhance our lives in a majorly natural way. It has been proven that patients recovering in hospital with a view of nature actually recover quicker and spend less time in hospital. Funny enough, having a dog also really helps our well-being. This, I believe, is linked directly to our hunter-gatherer past. When we lived and hunted in the jungle and plains, our bodies recovered faster, so we could get back on the game, so to speak, and ensure our own and our tribe's survival. By seeing the natural world from a hospital bed, I believe some long dormant little light bulb starts to flicker from the visual input, and slowly but surely it starts to influence the body's natural hunting and healing system, telling it to get better soon as it is needed. It has also been proven that workers who are in daily contact with trees and flowers are more satisfied with their jobs, less stressed than those in the city. This once again, I believe, is a deep-seated survival instinct, whereas a strong fortification using natural products is a source of great security and pride. Contact with nature is known to reduce blood pressure and cholesterol. The hunting instinct comes into play, as a good hunter should be physically able and not have ill health. Once again, just another dormant physical instinct flickering faintly. Just participants in simulated driving situations found that they recovered more quickly in a rural setting. And the funny thing is that because this, I believe, is that when we hunted, a sudden attack from an animal would produce an adrenaline dump, flooding our body with a flight or fight fuel. However, once the danger passed, the recovery to normal had to be achieved faster so the hunt could go on, the body flashing out and the heartbeat slowing back to normal, the brain clearing and tunnel vision widening. Now once when I was working in the bush, I was doing a safari, walking safari, and I remember when he walked into a very angry lioness. I mean, the roar was universally loud and the ground shook. I mean, all I remember was being frozen in place, a dark circular shadow circling my rear and fore gun sights, which was nestled just above her top lip. Training really prevented me from pulling the trigger, however, as she was just mock charging. When she broke off, I remember the dark tunnel widening, my legs being locked immobile, and my tracker having to literally pull the rifle down because I was locked into the shooting position. It was crystal clear. I was crystal clear. The shakes and the shakes and the stammering would arrive shortly after, but it wouldn't last long. So that was just your sixth sense and your survival instinct kicking in, and almost after the danger was past, getting back to normal much faster than normal. I mean, if that was in a town, you would be like stressed for days. But in the bush, in the natural world, our body kicks in to get you back on the game as soon as possible. And I feel that sixth sense and instinct fall somewhere in our unperceived spaces, along with spirituality. In fact, this safari down to the soul is largely unperceived scenery. We are full of empty space. We are composed of atoms that are orbited by electrons with spaces between them. Remember the circular shape which I spoke about earlier. If, say for example, one of our atoms was the size of a walnut, the farthest electron orbiting our atom would be over a kilometer away. That is a lot of space. The universe is full of empty space. Billions of light years separate galaxies. Light years separate stars and nebulae, and millions of miles separate planets and moons. Yet they all follow the same pattern as our own atoms and electrons, circular bodies orbiting other circular bodies at varying distances. Recently, however, astronomers have discovered a strange substance in all those faraway vast spaces. This substance is called dark matter. What exactly it is we do not know as yet, but we are aware of its existence. In our own empty spaces between our own orbiting bodies, we have become aware of our own dark matter. It is the substance hinted at by quantum physics, acted on by old instincts, felt by the sixth senses, and acknowledged by spirituality. The girls who worked in the game lodge where I used to work all had their menstrual cycles at the same time. This is the herding instinct, the survival instinct, and the natural harmony of the body in its natural environment. Well, though to say to a girl that is harmonious having PMT is likely quite dangerous to you and not to be recommended. Birds and animals head for higher grounds as a tsunami approaches. Unseen is instinct. A soldier's gut feeling that around the corner is a landmine is instinct. The knowledge that you can walk right up to an elephant, yet avoid another one like the plague, one that looks exactly the same, is instinct. That sometimes strange total dislike you might feel for a total stranger is its sixth sense. And I remember there's this quite a famous story where in the Whiskey A Go-Go in Los Angeles in the 60s, there was this strange little man who used to go in there with a few followers, and people were repelled by him for some reason. He was only a short little fella, moustache, beard, and used to go into the dance floor and dance this weird dance, and people used to look at him and they used to feel very, very uncomfortable. A year later, that person turned out to be Charles Manson. So sixth sense also goes if you feel someone is evil. I think Ted Bundy had the same effect as well. So did quite a few of the famous serial killers. Often the police, when they interviewed them, not only because they knew their crime, so there wasn't that aspect of it, so they walked into the interview and they just felt very, very uncomfortable spiritually, and they can't put a word to it really. And these are hardened police and they've seen a lot of stuff. However, working in harmony with instinct, sixth sense working in harmony with instinct, as I've said before, is both a survival mechanism and a spiritual survival mechanism, that they both work together. Spiritual survival being recognizing evil and avoiding it, and physical survival recognizing a physical danger and ordering it and avoiding it. However, this is more accurate in a natural setting. It's not stifled or obscured by the stifling effects of society and artificial environments. I mean, we spend more time in an artificial environment nowadays than in the real environment, as video games prove. I mean, lastly, as my photograph shows, we are so busy whizzing past our heart lost in everyday pleasures. What this picture shows is that we're so busy whizzing past everything, we're lost in everyday pleasures, we fail to see the shimmering highway of our senses that lead directly to our soul and the undiscovered natural treasures that it contains. So we're whizzing past everything at such a light speed, getting there, getting this, trying to do this, trying to do that, thinking this, thinking our thought process is speeded up a million times as well, and yet we don't see the highway ahead, the highway of our senses that lead directly to our soul and the undiscovered natural treasures that have always been there, never gone away, and yet just waiting to be discovered. Okay, that concludes lecture 2 of Module 3. I'll see you again on Module 3, Lecture 3. Bye for now.